All right, so today we're talking about researching your speech, and this is chapter 7. And when we talk about research, I know a lot of people are like, okay, I'm not sure exactly the best way to do research, but we do research a lot, even if we don't call it or consider it research. Like when we're trying to figure out what's the best car to buy, what school to go to, all of those things. That is kind of research that we do on a daily basis. And so now we're going to talk about research for your speech. And as defined in your text, research for the purposes of looking at doing your speech is a scholarly investigation into a topic in order to discover, revise, or report facts, theories, and applications. So really it's all about finding information that is going to support your speech. There's a couple kinds of research. We have primary and secondary. So primary research is actively doing research. So if you were to go out and do surveys, interviews, etc., that would be primary research. So the actual researcher is doing it. Secondary research is somebody else has done the primary research and you are using that information. So it is you are second removed. So if you look at the textbook and you see all the references that are in there and the sources, that means the textbook we're using for this class is secondary research because it's using primary research from others. All right. So finding resources, you can use books, both academic and non-academic, periodicals, newspapers, blogs, encyclopedias, websites or databases, and scholarly articles or journals. So your periodicals might be other more popular magazines or specific magazines to an industry. Scholarly articles are peer reviewed by other experts within the field. And so those are usually the best way to go. So how do you evaluate your sources? First of all, you want to know what is the date of the publication. Are you using the most current information? So you don't want to use something so old and outdated that something new has replaced it, especially if you're looking at science, medical, those kind of topics. You want to know who the author is and how they are capable of writing on this particular topic. Who published it, making sure you don't have any kind of bias, etc., especially when you're looking at web pages. You want to determine if it's academic or non-academic. So is it from a layperson or is it from an expert in the field? So which one has more credibility? You also want to look at the quality of the reference page that they have. What kind of references are they using? And how credible are those sources? And is the work being cited? So you don't want to have to go through something and not have any source citations whatsoever, then it's probably not a credible source. So speaking of citing sources, we have to remember that citing is important for your credibility, and because not citing information is considered plagiarism, we don't want to do that. So all you have to do, it's totally appropriate to use other sources, but all you have to do is give credit for the work of others. So if you have used information from somewhere, just give credit to that author. You're going to be fine. So when and where you should cite your sources sources should be cited in your outline. So you would cite right in your outline as you use a statistic, where did it come from? Put that in parentheses. You cite your sources fully in the reference page, so full source citation, so someone could go to that reference page and find your source. And you want to orally cite your sources as you use the information in your speech. So don't give a list of sources at the end of your speech. If you're using that statistic, you should sort it, you should orally cite it right there as you use that statistic. Where did it come from? That's the appropriate place to do it. We shouldn't have to try to figure out what came from where. You need to tell us that. And finally, we're going to talk about using sources ethically. So avoid plagiarism. That's the idea of actually citing your sources. Avoid academic fraud, using somebody else's work, right, as your own. Don't mislead your audience. So don't twist around information that you have to suit your own needs. This is especially relevant when you're talking about statistical information. Give author credentials. So, how is that author that you have relevant and credible? And use primary research ethically. So, if you are doing your own research, a survey, for instance, don't take that information and try to skew it in such a way that it proves what you want it to prove rather than what you actually found.